Hi, it's Nikki here from Happy Hormones for Life, and today I'm really excited. We are talking about brain health in particular. I know that's a big issue for a lot of you. So I've got the lovely Susan Saunders with me, who's a health coach helping women over 50 build consistent habits scientifically proven to reduce their dementia risk and optimize brain health. She's the author of 3 books about healthy aging. The most recent is The Power Decade, How to Thrive After Menopause, and it's out now. So Susan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks.
I'm really happy that you're here because brain health is a serious worry for a lot of people. So first of all, I just want to ask you straight off the bat, what is the single most important thing we can do to look after our brains as we age? And then we're going to get into your story and why you're here doing this.
That's such a big question, and it's a big answer, and that is put your brain first. I think mindset is critical. We, particularly as women, I have to say, tend to think about others before we think about ourselves. We tend to think about when we're exercising or eating, what we look like or how it's going to impact our weight or that sort of thing, rather than how is it going to impact my brain? How is my exercise routine going to impact my brain? How is what I'm eating going to impact my brain? And that's what we should be thinking, because what's more important than your brain and keeping it powerful and sharp and working as well as possible for as long as possible? So that's why I always think put your brain first. There isn't an easy answer like eat more spinach. It's got to be a big answer.
That's huge, yeah. And also, can you just give us a potted summary of what happens to our brain past 50? What does menopause do to it that makes us more foggy, forgetful, and increased risk of things like dementia?
Estrogen is like a super fuel for our brains. It lubricates our brains, it fires them up, and it provides them with lots of energy. And so as we transition through menopause and estrogen levels decline, our brains are less energetic. They're working less hard. They've got less fuel. They're lagging. So that is something that can be seen really visibly on brain scans. That a premenopause, the same brain premenopause, during the transition post-menopause, there's less energy being burnt up, and our brains are really greedy. They use around 20% of the energy that we consume each day. They are energy hungry, and if they are burning that fuel less efficiently because estrogen is declining, we are going to experience brain fog. We are going to experience those symptoms of menopause, which are in the brain. Dr. Lisa Mosconi, who's leading the field on this, says that menopause is a major neurological transition. I mean, when I was in what clearly was perimenopause, though I didn't know what it was, I just thought menopause was about lack of fertility and the end of my periods. I had no idea how it was impacting the rest of my body and particularly my brain. And it does make the menopause transition makes women's brains more vulnerable to neurological conditions. Eventually that could be dementia. Menopause does not cause dementia. I have seen that online. That is not the case. But our brains are going through this profound experience and change. And we need to be aware of that and nurture ourselves and our brains to protect ourselves.
And I mean, the good news is that there's lots we can do to protect our brains. Yes. Let's not be too doom and gloom about it.
Oh yes, absolutely. And the other thing I should say, there is a lot we can do to protect our brains. And also, it seems that once we are post-menopause, our brains adapt and overcome, as we do. They prune, they use energy in different ways, they get rid of neural pathways that perhaps they don't need or aren't being used, they kind of reconfigure. So that a lot of women I talk to who are perhaps later in their 50s, as I am, are thinking, oh, actually, you know what, I do feel okay now. My brain is working again. I can feel those connections working. So yeah, so do not give up hope. For the majority of women, the brain reconfigures, reboots, as long as you look after it, and off we go again.
We'll get into how we to look after the brain in a little while, but I just want to go back and ask you, what started you on this journey? Because I know you've got a personal interest in this, haven't you?
Yes, absolutely. So when I was 36, I had a toddler and a newborn, and I was working full time apart from maternity leave. And my mother was diagnosed with dementia. So I became her carer as well as everything else. And as a teenager, I had watched her care for her mum, who also had dementia.
Yeah.
So I could see a pattern here, which I really hope I am not going to repeat, and I do everything I can to avoid repetition and to avoid my daughters having to take care of me. So that was such a moment of shock when my mother was diagnosed. I was so young to
How
be
old was
dealing with
she,
that.
Susan?
Well, at that point, she was 76. So
Okay.
she was not a young mum when I was born. And my dad had died some time before. So she was on her own. And yeah, she was mid 70s. So that's not uncommon. It was just for me, I had no idea what to do. And now I'm in my late 50s. A lot of my friends are where I was at 36. So they're having to deal with that. So that was just such a wake up call. And of course, it dominated my life for the next 12 years, the last 12 years of her life. And you really just got me thinking, what can I do? What can I do? How can I try and find a way through this? And I was reading all these reports in the newspaper and stuff, which were saying things like, drink coffee, you'll live forever. Don't drink coffee, it will kill you. I was, oh God, how do you make sense of this? And so the first result of that was the blog, which I've now been writing for 10 years with my friend Annabelle Street, the Age Well Project. And from that came the book. And as we were writing the book, I thought, I really want to be able to help people more directly. And I qualified as a health coach and then worked with an American neuroscientist called Dr. Dale Bredesen, did his coaching course, dementia prevention coaching course. Yeah, that sort of led me to where I am now.
And he's leading the field for
Yeah.
natural solutions for brain health, isn't he, pretty much?
Yes, absolutely. Making use of lifestyle and all the research that has gone into lifestyle factors to prevent dementia, because there is no medication, there is no magic pill. There's enormous amounts of research going on, and every now and again there's a little, the dial moves slightly and there'll be enormous headlines saying here's the cure for Alzheimer's, and it's not there yet. It's really not. And even if it was, I think we have to do the best we can to take control of our health, to power up, to take ownership of our brains, because as I said at the beginning, what's more important?
Oh my God, yeah, I'm so on the same page as that. So that's great to hear. Let's get into the good stuff. Okay, what are your 6 pillars for better brain health?
So my 6 pillars, there are different variations on this, but when I'm coaching my clients, we talk about diet, exercise, sleep, stress reduction, cognitive engagement, and social and built environment, which is a rather kind of clumsy phrase to sort of think about how you are out in the world. And I put the emphasis on all of them because certainly when I started out on this journey, I thought, well, if I eat really well and exercise, I'll be fine. And it's only through reading and research and learning that I really realized there's so much more to our brain health than than just what we eat and how we exercise, however important they are.
Well, let's start with diet. Let's get that out of the way. What are some of the things that we need to really focus on to feed the brain?
So we need to focus on putting the good stuff in, and rather than taking loads of stuff out first of all. So really important that we're getting, I mean, you know all this, Nikki, but lots of vegetables, green leafy vegetables. There's some really good solid research about the power of polyphenols and nutrients in plants, and particularly green leafy vegetables. There was some research published that gets quoted a lot that said people who eat at least one portion of green leafy vegetables each day by the age of, I can't remember, I think it was late 60s or 70s, have a brain age of around 11 years younger.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
Definitely
that's a
work
really,
cabbage,
that's
I think.
that's a really powerful change, isn't it? So yeah, so all the vegetables, or everything coloured. I know eat the rainbow is a cliche. And I say to people, eat the traffic lights. If you're getting green, orangey, yellow, and red fruits and vegetables in your diet every day, you are doing amazing things for your brain. And you that can be, you know, berries and red peppers and yellow peppers and sweet corn and all sorts of things. You're piling them in there. I think oily fish, good quality oily fish, smash fish, and that is uh, salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, herring, smash.
Nice.
Good thing to remember, really important to be getting 2-3 portions of those a day. If you don't eat fish, or you hate it, or you don't eat it for ethical reasons, think about a marine algae supplement to be getting those omega-3 fatty acids, because there is so much robust research that shows that they really help the brain and work in synergy with other nutrients as well, to really help support our brain health, really far up our brain health.
DHA is important for that, isn't it, Susan? DHA,
Sorry.
particularly for brain cells, isn't it? The
So
DHA part of things.
yes, DHA and EPA, omega-3 fatty acids, really important for brain health. And also they work with other nutrients like lycopene that we get from red fruit and veg to support brain health. You know, there's a kind of synergy there that we have to be aware of, which is why I think it's important, wherever we can, to be eating the whole foods rather than, oh, I'll take another pill and see if that works.
Yeah.
Fiber, really important for brain health, because our gut microbiome is fermenting the fiber, and that's sending messages, positive messages to our brain. It's getting the gut brain superhighway working properly when we are breaking down that food, that fiber, fermenting it, creating butyrate, short chain fatty acids, which are gut microbiome loves, and is also really good for our brain health. And then obviously reducing sugar, processed foods. They are just so bad for our brain. It's not about weight or what we look like or just our skin. It has a really detrimental impact on our brain health. Our brains just aren't fueled up as much. And if you think about that, our brains are consuming around 20% of what we eat. Their usage of energy is so intense. If that energy source is crappy, then our brains just aren't going to work as well. They're not going to be as happy.
Yeah, totally. What about protein? How important is that for our brain?
I think protein is really important, and I don't know what you find, Nikki, but I find with my clients, being older women, none of them ever are eating enough protein. Not one client is ever getting 1 gram of protein per kilo of lean body weight a
Is
day.
that your recommendation from your
That's that's that I think is a really good starting point. I think as we get older, we probably need more protein.
Mm.
It's just nobody I talk to is ever at that point. So you've got to start at that point and then work up from there. Yeah, protein is really is important for our brain health, and it's really important, of course, for our muscles, and muscle strength is really important for brain health. There's some really strong correlations between strong muscles, particularly leg muscles, and good cognition.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, really, really, really interesting research. People who have strong muscles, particularly the leg muscles, because they're so big, have better memory and better cognition.
Wow, that's not
So
something that I've heard before. That's incredible. We all know
yeah,
muscle is really, really important as we get older, but I didn't know it had a direct link to our brain
yeah,
function.
yeah, there's a really strong correlation. So of course, to
Love that
build
research to do
muscle,
strength and training and stuff. So yes, carry on.
so to build muscle, we need protein and we need fuel, and also I think protein is really satiating. If you're eating enough protein, you're not going to snack as much. You're not kind of looking for a biscuit at 3 o'clock if you've had a good lump of protein at lunch. So that's what I find, and that's what my clients find. So yeah, I think it is, it's really, really important.
What about exercise? Tell us a little bit of how that improves brain health.
So we need to move. We need to move for our brains. So any form of movement is good. You walking. There's great research that shows that walking really, really correlates with better cognitive health. And it doesn't have to be 10,000 steps a day or 20,000, whatever. We start to make gains in terms of brain health from about 4,000.
Oh, that's great news.
Which is great. If starting with someone who's completely sedentary, 4,000 steps will make a difference to their cognition. If you can make those steps faster, that's great. So any form of movement, strength training, as I was saying, really, really important. And working our muscles is what I call the diamond bullet for better brain health, because I know obviously there is no such thing as a diamond bullet, but if you think a silver bullet is a good thing, well, a diamond bullet is even better. So
Right.
that's my slightly clunky analogy. That building muscle, squeezing our muscle seems to squeeze out proteins, which researchers call hope molecules, which are really good for our mental health and also for our cognition, for our brain health. And so we want those fibers squeezing. Actually, strength training, whether that's body weight or free weights or fixed weights, whatever it is, squeezing those muscles makes a really big difference to our brain health. Lots of interesting research around HIIT, any kind of high intensity interval training, and that is always what is high intensity for you. So if for you that's walking a bit faster and then slowing down again, or it's doing some really high impact aerobics, it doesn't matter. It's what gets you breathless, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time. You doing intervals and then having a break, an interval and a break. 10 minutes makes a difference. There's also some great research that shows that 6 minutes of vigorous exercise, again, what's vigorous for you? 6 minutes of vigorous exercise is enough to start making BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is like fertilizer for our neurons. And when we work to our capacity, that BDNF, or that, it seems, they're not quite sure what happens, that lactate gets pushed into the brain, and that helps the brain make BDNF, which in turn provides this kind of bed of fertilizer for our neurons. So, 6 minutes going for, I do 6 minutes at the gym on the rowing machine as hard as I can. And then I'll go and do something else, probably involving weights in some form. So, it doesn't have to be a huge amount of time. It doesn't have to be daunting. It's about doing something that works, that you can fit into your life. If that's your really fast walk on your way to the station to go to work, that's great too. Whatever it is.
And you don't need to go to the gym. You can go with
No.
brisk walk up a hill will get you out of
Yeah,
breath, working your
exactly,
arm, and
exactly.
that 6 minutes probably. So
Mm,
not inaccessible for most people.
no,
Okay,
no.
let's get on to sleep. It's one of my favorite topics.
Oh, it's such a big topic. It's such a big topic. I've had so many people contact me recently about that because it is so hard for so many people, and we know, of course, menopause disrupts our sleep. So it is really difficult. And I think I say to people, we have to fall in love with sleep. And so I think when you're young, and I see this with my daughters who are in their 20s, they throw themselves into bed, they'll sleep for 10 hours, they'll get up, they feel great, that just doesn't happen anymore for us in midlife. And we really have to sort of treat it like a hobby that you're passionate about, and you make it something that you really care about, and really try and deal with the revenge bedtime procrastination.
Excuse me, the what?
Exactly. No, it's a behavioral psychology term, and it refers to that pre-bed faff that we all do, I think, particularly women, which is, oh, I'll just put another wash on, or oh, I haven't told so and so, I'll just do a quick email, or oh, I'm going to read another chapter, or I'm going to watch another episode, or whatever it is. Revenge bedtime procrastination is us taking revenge on a very busy day by not going to bed. Even
Brilliant.
does that that ring any bells?
Guilty as charged. It's always that next episode for me. It's like, I can just squeeze in another half an hour. And then of course, what happens after that is you're kind of extra stimulated, you haven't taken the time to relax before you go to sleep, and then your brain's going crazy for another half an hour, or whatever, and then you've missed that first cycle of sleep, which is so important. And then you're on
exactly,
so many times that happens.
Exactly what I do, and I advise other people to do, is to set an alarm at night.
Mm-hmm.
So I have an alarm that goes off at 9:30. That's my right, the day is over, time to wind down, get off screens, whatever you're doing, start to wind down. 10 o'clock, another alarm, and that is get ready, get into bed now. So that's what I try and do, because otherwise I could be faffing around all night.
Yeah. And what does lack of sleep or poor sleep do to the brain? What's the link there?
Well, yeah, it's really interesting. When we are in deep sleep, so that cycle of slow wave sleep, our brains go into housekeeping mode, and they clean out toxins that have built up during the day, because our brains are so metabolically active. They are producing oxidation, they're producing toxins, they're producing exhaust fumes, essentially. So we need them to get cleaned through. And we have a really fantastic system called the glymphatic system, and that is the brain's housekeeping team. But they work best when we are in deep sleep. And it's amazing, when we are in deep sleep, our brain cells shrink so that everything can be sort of flushed through. So imagine if you were trying to hoover your living room and all the furniture shrunk by around 60%, you'd get around really quickly, wouldn't you? Well, that's what happens in our brains at night in deep sleep. So we want that quality sleep, so that cleaning process can
And that has
happen.
been actually linked, isn't it, in evidence to the deep sleep part of our sleep routine has been linked to reduced Alzheimer's risk, hasn't
Yeah,
it? Because it's cleaning out those amyloid plaques as well, isn't it?
exactly. Yes, yes. So that process of cleaning out the amyloid beta that builds up in the brain happens when the glymphatic system gets to work. However, I must say there is some positivity in this for people who don't sleep well, that there is research that links women with broken sleep with less dementia risk.
Hmm.
Less dementia risk. And the thought process behind that is that when women don't sleep, they do other things. They problem solve. They might get up and read. They might potter about a bit. And actually, those things are actually quite good for us and reduce our dementia risk. So the worst thing is to lie awake thinking, I'm not asleep, I'm going to get dementia,
Right.
because that is not the case.
That turns on your stress hormones, right? So it
Yes,
makes
yes,
it worse. Yeah.
yeah. Stressing about not sleeping is
Yeah.
much worse than not sleeping.
So if you're not sleeping, don't lie there and stress about it. Get up, do something else, read, do something that's actually positive for the brain, and you may not be as much of a
Yeah,
at risk as just lying
yes,
there stressing. Is what you're
yeah,
saying.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, let's go right from there into stress, because stress has a huge impact on the brain. Out of all these 6 pillars, I would say stress is probably the worst, but you tell me what you think.
Yes, stress. Yeah, yeah. A stressed brain is not a happy, well-functioning brain. It's yeah. Stress shuts down the hormones that help our brains function properly. Stress impacts every single aspect of our lives, and all the things which are good for our brains don't work as well when we are under a great deal of stress, and we're just not designed for this sort of life that we're living, that you shut in offices, not having agency over our lives. Our brains our brains are still essentially roaming the savannah hunting woolly mammoths or whatever. I know that's not the case, but or saber-toothed tigers or whatever. And our lives, particularly in the last 100 years, have changed so dramatically. Our poor little brains can't keep up. So they are in a constant state of stress. And it's very difficult to find a way through that. And I think we all just have to find the very small things which help release the pressure cooker a bit, whether that's a short walk, a few minutes of meditation, calm, anything that feels good to us, because we can't just throw up our lives and go and live in a cave, which is probably what our brains would like. We are stuck in this world which is not good for our brains, and we just have to mediate against that however we can.
Yeah, I mean, I go on about this all the time because it has such a big impact on our hormones and our menopause symptoms and everything. And there's not an organ or a system in the body that stress doesn't affect. Because in survival mode, it shuts everything down pretty much. So we've got to find that time, and that's why I think sometimes it's just more important than diet and exercise, because if we don't find the time to switch off that cortisol response, it doesn't matter what we're doing in the rest of our lives, we're not going to feel the benefits of that. So sometimes I do think it needs to come first. But let's move on, because we all know
Yes.
roughly what
Yes.
we should be doing for self-care. We've just got to do it.
Yeah.
Cognitive engagement, tell me a little bit about how that can help with brain health and reduce our risk of dementia.
Well, cognitive engagement really refers to that mental stimulation, working out our brain. You've talked about working out our muscles, but giving our brain a workout. And that doesn't have to be cryptic crosswords. It can be just doing something new, or you walking to work a different route, or traveling somewhere, or going to an art gallery. It's something that just stimulates our brain in another way. Anything we can do with our hands, any kind of craft, some really interesting research around how working with our hands stimulates our brain in a really positive way. So anything like that, it's just something that gives our brain a bit of a nudge and feels different and feels a little bit challenging in some way.
And could that be as simple as just reading a book?
Yes, reading is absolutely fantastic for the brain.
Goodness.
Yeah, it's also really, really good for sleep, because when we read, when we're reading along a line, we are replicating rapid eye movement sleep, the movement of
Yeah.
that our eyes do in rapid eye movement sleep. So it's priming the brain for sleep. Yes, and reading really reduces stress as well. Lots of interesting research around that. Yes, and follow, particularly fiction, where you're following a story, you're putting yourself in someone else's shoes, you're showing empathy for that person, you're having to remember what they did several chapters ago or who that character is yeah, it's a really good workout for the brain.
Amazing.
Definitely.
Amazing. Fantastic. We're down to social and built environment, which is a bit of a mouthful. What do you mean by that?
So it's really about, I mean, everything else we've talked about is sort of how we handle ourselves, how we give ourselves agency for our health. And then the final one is really a bit more about going out into the world. And social engagement is about being with other people. We are designed to live as a tribe. Again, going back to the savannah, there's safety in the tribe. You're not going to get picked off by a saber-toothed tiger if you're in a group. And so when we're together, our stress levels reduce, and our brain becomes part of something bigger. Essentially, we are tribal, and so it's really important that we engage with other people. One of the absolute best workouts we can give our brain is talking to a stranger, because our brains are having to do so much work. You're like, who is this person? Are they going to kill me? What do they want? How am I going to behave? What do I need to say? What are they asking of me? Your brain is making so many calculations when you talk to someone you don't know. And it's really good for our brains to do that. If you can talk to a stranger every day, be it the barista in a coffee shop or bus conductor, your bus driver or whatever it is, then that is a really good way to give your brain a little workout, and that's interacting in your social environment. And built environment really is being aware of the toxins in our environment, and of course this opens up a whole can of worms, because you start to think about, well, what chemicals are we putting into our system? What are we putting on our skin? What are we ingesting? What is in our home, our environment? What's the air quality like? So that's another really, it's a big
Another book.
That's another book. Yeah, and that it does slightly freak out my clients when we get to that point. So I have to sort of manage that, because it can be overwhelming, because it is really a really big subject. But I think it is just about being conscious of what is around us. Day by day.
Yeah. That's amazing. Great information. Something in lots of different areas, because it is not just one answer, is it, for brain health? There's so many different things that impact our brains. So we have to kind of take little bits that work for us from each of those areas and make our own, I call it a jigsaw puzzle, but that kind of
exactly.
Individualized solution for everybody. I'm going to just finish off with habits, because I know you're really hot on building healthy habits with your clients. Why do you put so much emphasis on this for reducing dementia risk?
I put a lot of emphasis on healthy habits because I can't guarantee, and none of us can guarantee, that we won't get dementia. There is no cast iron way of dealing it, but we know that there is a lot of research that shows how we can reduce our risk with lifestyle, and in order to do that, we need to build the habits that support that lifestyle. There's no point eating one healthy meal or doing one workout. It's got to be a day by day, week by week, year by year process. And so I focus on habits because I can't guarantee to my clients they won't get dementia, but I can guarantee that they will build the habits in the time that will help them reduce their risk in the time that we are together. And there is, at the moment, no cure for Alzheimer's and related dementias. There's an enormous amount of research ongoing. The dial is moving very slowly, but at the moment, there's no magic pill. It's on us to look after our brains, to do the best we can, to build the habits and support our cognition with our lifestyle.
And not only that, it's going to benefit every bit of our bodies, isn't it, and our minds, to grow into old age with a long health span, not lifespan, not just lifespan, because we are getting older, but we want to have good quality years in that time.
Yes.
And doing
Yes.
this will help everything. So
Exactly. None of it is stuff you won't have heard of. It's just changing the emphasis, and you really focusing on the things that science shows us particularly help our brains.
right, yeah. Thank you so much, Susan.
My
It's been
pleasure.
fascinating, right down my alley. I love all this talk. I could chat to you all day. We haven't got all day, unfortunately, but thank you so much for being with us, and really hope everyone finds this as interesting as I do, and as useful. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for asking me, Nikki. I really enjoyed it.